Today is October 21st, 2024, and welcome to the 411th episode of the So Video Games Podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I'm the one-man host of this show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility information on every review we publish. Hello! Thank you for joining me today. As per usual, I'll kick things off with housekeeping, where I discuss tidbits, news items, industry happenings, and basically anything randomly game adjacent that has caught my eye in the last 7 days. And unlike last week, where I had literally nothing at all to talk about, we do have a couple bits today. Starting off, let's see. There's a brand new thing happening with EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly. Now, I know that the magazine was canceled a while ago, and we're not going to get into all the ins and outs of that. But there was a Kickstarter. I don't know if you knew, and I don't think that I knew, but there was a Kickstarter that happened, launched recently, and it was to raise money to put together the Electronic Gaming Monthly Compendium. Basically, it was going to be a really big hardcover book that had selected items taken from all of the years of EGM. I think it ran from 1984 or 88 or something like that in the 80s, all the way up until this year, earlier, I forget when it was, but it was like, it ran for like decades, right? So they were going to raise, I think, the initial funding goal of $35,000. They blew past that. I think they ended up getting, I think at the last time I checked, it was close to $300,000. So, way more than they needed. And because of that, not only is the book going to be made, but they are going to put out one more brand new issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, like in magazine format, next year in 2025. So in case you're a fan of EGM, might be something that you're interested in. I subscribed myself for many years. I used to have like tons and tons of the back issues until I had to get rid of them for space. And I didn't just throw them away. I donated them to some game archivists here in town. So those went to a good home. Didn't just dumpster them. But yeah, I think having just one little compendium is pretty cool. I might think about getting that myself. Takes up way less space than the boxes and boxes of back issues I had. But also, if you have a lot of nostalgia or you still have some feeling about EGM, and I'm sure many of us do, you can get in on it now. The Kickstarter is active until November 14th, so you still got time. You can get the book. You can also get the brand new issue of EGM coming next year as well. So there you go. Heads up. You can find the campaign on Kickstarter, or also http egmbook.com. So check that out if you wish. Next up is a little tidbit given to me by Ron, superfan Ron, over in the So Video Games Discord. Dropped me a link over there, and you are welcome to join us in the Discord if you wish. Information coming up on that in just a few seconds. So basically, Sony has patented a real-time sign language translator for games. So number one, Ron, thank you for sending this. I appreciate you, brother, and I appreciate you sending this in. And for anybody out there listening, I'm happy to talk about anything you want to send me. Links, articles, videos, anything you want to send. Give me a heads up and I'll check it out. We'll talk about it here on the show. So thank you very much, Ron. Now, I want to just pause for a second, okay? So I am an expert in American Sign Language. I am experienced as you can get. I do all sorts of stuff. I've worked in movies and TV, the video game industry. I've done tons and tons of stuff, worked with tons of famous people, so I know my shit. Okay, so I know sign language, period, full stop. And one thing that kind of irritates me as a sign language expert is that everybody wants to ram AI into sign language, and it makes me laugh, dude. It makes me laugh, and it's also disappointing because sign language is really, really complex. It's not just another language like French or Spanish or whatever. There are so many more aspects to it that are not captured in the usual way that we talk about languages, right? So it's number one, there's no written form whatsoever. There just isn't one. It's all visual. It's also heavily contextual. I mean, many languages are, but more so for sign language, because some signs and some motions that you do, non-verbal cues, facial affect, body language, spacing, positioning, motion, directionality, classifiers, all these things happen in real time, and they are heavily based on a shared context between two people having a conversation. And if that context changes, many of those meanings can radically change. It is a difficult language to master. It is an incredibly difficult language to do professionally. I don't say that to like give myself a pat on the back, but just to be honest with you guys, it's really, really hard. I mean, I think very few people can do it well. And I really just don't think that tech bros who want to ram AI into the ass of everything are really going to get this done. I've seen lots of proposals lately. And honestly, to be perfectly frank, I think a lot of this is people wanting to just get investment dollars. There's a lot of venture capital flying around right now for anything to do with AI in general. And then also sign language is still pretty hot at the moment. And so accessibility, AI, deafness, those things are still pretty popular at the moment. So combining that with all these people who've got too much money, I think there's a lot of people taking advantage of the situation. I've seen a lot of things lately, not just from Ron, actually. I have a couple other friends who have sent me some stuff. There's a pair of glasses that are supposed to be real-time translation glasses. I saw a virtual avatar, which is supposed to be like on your iPad or something, where like somebody will be talking in the room and then this like virtual character is supposed to pop up on your pad and do the sign language in real time. And it's like horse shit. All of it is horse shit to the nth degree. You just can't do it. I just don't think you can do it. Computers, AI, it doesn't matter how powerful it is. There are certain nuances that need to be done by human beings who are living that experience, who know what this language is about. And I just don't believe, like, I mean, maybe in 100 years, maybe in 200 years, possibly, but I just don't think that AI can get it done. It's too complex of a language. So specifically about this Sony thing, and again, thank you, Ron, I appreciate it. And keep sending stuff for sure. So what they did was they patented something that is basically a one-off of the international system that they've already had in place for many years. And other game places have had this for many years. So like if you play a video game online and you are doing, you know, worldwide player audience, right? So maybe players in Japan can play with players in America. You know, you can see an example of this in Monster Hunter, basically. Like, let's say that you're doing cross-play and you want to play, you know, cross-continent or something. In the emote wheel for Monster Hunter, you'll see like hello and goodbye and over there and help and stop and go and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's listed in English. And then when you choose that emote or whatever, the game knows what you've selected because they've already assigned a definition to it. And so it takes that definition, sends it over to the Japanese player. It finds the corresponding definition in the Japanese emote wheel, and then it gives them that same emote, right? And you can do that with text as well. Not just with any text, but with certain text. So like if there's a text parser or like a chat window or something where it has pre-programmed responses, very similar to what you see in Demon Souls. And that's exactly why they do it, right? If you do like, you know, gorgeous view ahead or something, those words have an English version, and then FromSoft already knows what those words mean in Japanese. And so when you select those words, it goes into the database and it chooses the corresponding Japanese words. And so you can say gorgeous view ahead in English, and the Japanese player who is helping you will get that same message in Japanese. So that's a system that has existed for a while now, several years at least, if not longer. And so Sony has just kind of one-upped it. So they have taken signs, and again, I don't think this has been used with any technology whatsoever that I've seen so far. No games, no real implementation. This is all theoretical. But they take signs and then give them the same definition as they do with English. And then if a person chooses that sign, it'll go to the database. And then if they're playing with like a deaf Japanese player, that definition will go to the Japanese language database. And then that game will produce the Japanese sign language that corresponds. So, I mean, okay, fine, whatever. It's the same thing as what they're already doing. It's very limited in scope. It's got to be very fixed. It's not free form. It's not like an interpreter. It's not like you can have a full-on conversation with someone. It's like having word for word, one for one, literal translations. And that's fine. I think it's great they're doing it. It'll help deaf players, I guess, if there's any games that eventually use sign language for this. I haven't seen any yet. Haven't heard of any yet. But I'm not opposed to this at all. But I do want to just give you all just a heads up that like when you see all these other things, like anything that comes out of Elon Musk's fucking mouth or anything that people are like, oh, this is going to replace interpreters, it is sure fucking not. It is not that easy. And most of these things, in case you haven't noticed, are really only one way. Most of these programs that are looking for venture capital right now will take audio, spoken audio, and then they will put out either like a subtitle or a quote unquote ASL interpretation, which makes me laugh because, dude, if you knew anything about how complex sign language is, you would know there is not ever just one way to interpret something. It's like an art form basically. And so there is no just one for one translation. It depends on where the person is from, what their background is, what generation they're from, what knowledge they have, what level of education they had. I mean, there's all sorts of factors that go into it. You could say fucking the sun is red or whatever, and you could have like 5 different interpretations of that. So there's no way for them to say there's just one. That doesn't make sense. But they only go one way. Not that I've seen anyway, any program whatsoever that can look at a person doing sign language and turn that into spoken English for somebody who might be a hearing person, right? So all of it so far is just one way. And I don't think that's nearly enough. I mean, if you're going to try to replace interpreters, you're going to have to do it both ways, both hearing to sign and sign to hearing both ways. So I don't see that happening. And that itself is a huge monumental challenge. Just trying to voice what somebody is signing takes so much knowledge, so much practice, so much expertise. I just don't think AI people can do it. And it's double ironic because whenever I hear about something like this, very rarely is it a deaf person or an interpreter who is spearheading this effort. It's always like a tech bro. Wait. Not always, but like 90% of the time when I research who is it, it's just like some guy in Silicon Valley or some guy who's at a university and they think they're going to get this done. And it's like, if you don't know the language intuitively on your own, you absolutely have no idea what challenge it is that you're setting up for yourself. So it made me laugh. I don't think it's going to work. But I'm glad, I guess, that Sony's taking some steps to make games more accessible for deaf people. That's always welcome, and that's really cool. But also just, big grain of salt with this one. Don't get suckered into the AI promises, and certainly don't give anybody your money because none of this stuff is going to pan out. But anyway, thanks, Ron, for bringing this up. I really appreciate it. And if anybody else wants to send me something like that, that is absolutely always welcome, anytime. Speaking of accessibility, I got an email from the people behind Dragon Age Veilguard. They have written a very comprehensive blog post that goes into all of the accessibility options for people who are thinking about getting into it. And I really, really, really appreciate this. I want to give like a huge shout out to everyone who was involved on the team implementing these accessibility options, and also to the people who made the blog post and making this information accessible ahead of time, right? Because nothing is worse than buying a game that you actually can't play. I mean, can you imagine being a deaf player who can't hear? You buy a game and then you can't hear the dialogue. There's no subtitles. I mean, that's a very common experience. Or maybe you're a colorblind player and you find out that some of the puzzles are solely based on color with no matching shapes or other cues. You'd be like totally stuck, right? Really frustrating. So knowing that there are options before you spend your hard-earned dollars is really, really welcome. So big kudos, big ups to everybody who was involved. I'm not going to go through all of the accessibility options here. I may post it at Game Creeks if I have time today, but today is looking pretty busy. But if you want to check it out for yourself, you can go to ea.com/able/resources/dragon-age-the-Veilguard. I know that's long, sorry. But you can, or I guess just Google the whole thing, whatever, you probably find it. And there's like a really, really, really long page that tells you all about like the visual options, control options, dialogue options, audio options. They really did a good job from what I can tell so far. And kudos to them for doing that. And also double kudos for making it available before you spend your 60, 70, 80 bones or whatever it is, or $100 for the deluxe package or whatever it comes down to. So I appreciate that. So Cool. That's going to do it for housekeeping this week. Nothing else here. Before we get into the main portion of the show, just a heads up. As I mentioned a second ago, there is a So Videogames Discord, which any listener is welcome to join free of charge. If you want to join up and continue the conversation after this show, just shoot me an email, and I will give you all of the details. And all of my contact information is coming up at the end of the show. Or if you don't want to listen, which is fine, that's your right, can't stop you. Just fast forward to the very end, and you'll get all the information. Email, social media, Discord, all that stuff. All right, folks, here we go. Main portion of the show, chugging right along. As y'all know, I like to start the main, meaty, juicy portion of each episode with circle backs, where I circle back to things that I have covered in depth on previous episodes. I'm not going to get into all the details again here, but think of this as a quick update to let you know if my thoughts have changed for better or for worse. Only one circle back today on Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. I've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. I really, really, really want to finish this game. I feel like I'm probably at least 3/4 of the way through. Just a quick recap. This is the active tower defense from Capcom, heavily steeped in Japanese lore and mythology. You are guiding a goddess down from the summit of a mountain that's been corrupted. You got to guide her all the way to the bottom, multiple stops along the way. with some tower defense type stuff, but it's also active tower defense because you can run around with your sword and slash dudes. You fight big bosses and fight monsters. Gotta say, this one is a real gem. It has not disappointed me. It has not bored me. I will definitely roll credits on this. I'm trying to do like one level a day, and it just keeps unrolling surprises and little nuances and little quirks that I'm not expecting. This game could have very easily been 25 levels of the same action with just a little bit of variety in how the paths are laid out. If you're familiar with tower defense, you know that on one side creeps or monsters come, and then on the other side is your tower that you're supposed to defend, and then there are usually preset paths where you set up your towers and such. This is a lot more freeform than that. There are paths, but there's no set points where you need to set up a tower, and also you can run around, or you don't have to set up towers at all, or you can do whatever. And like as I said before, there's all sorts of surprises, lots of little change ups in the formula, lots of little twists that you don't see coming necessarily, and it has gotten a little bit tougher. I got through the first couple levels pretty unscathed, and now that I'm about 3/4 of the way through, like I definitely have to think about it a little bit more, like work on the build for my team a little bit more. And in this game, your team take the place of towers. You have different types of warriors, and you can give them level ups and different abilities. And so how you build those guys and use them in the field really has a lot to do with it. Also, how you spec yourself, lots of different attacks and different abilities, bow and arrow, different attack types and stuff like that, whatever. So it's really good. I just want to say quickly, it's really, really good. I feel like it is definitely a surprise hit for me because I didn't like the demo, but I'm glad I came back to it because I really do like the full version. And I think this one has been worth putting the time into. So check it out. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's still on Game Pass, so you can try it for quote unquote free if you have Game Pass. Otherwise, full price elsewhere. But definitely a sleeper hit for me. I do like the active tower defense genre, and I don't think the demo sold it very well, but now that I'm in the full version, I think it's fantastic. So big ups to Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. I think it's great, and I will report back when I have rolled credits on that bad boy. All right, moving on. Now that I think about it, should I have put this in the circle backs? Maybe I shouldn't have. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But I talked about Metaphor ReFantazio a couple of episodes ago because I played the demo. This is the game, the RPG coming from the Persona team. And this is like kind of just an all new IP for them, set in a fantasy world where there are mention of humans, and there seems to be the suggestion of a regular human world, but we don't quite, or at least I don't know what that's all about quite yet. Haven't finished it, nowhere near finishing it. But it's really, really good. And I guess I'm not going to recap, I suppose. This will be like a half circle back, half new game. But after I played the demo, I decided to jump into the full version, which is probably a catastrophically bad idea because the last thing in the world I need right now is like a big 80-hour RPG. But I decided to go for it. It's also kind of surprising to me because I was kind of tired of Persona. I played basically all the Personas up until Persona 5, I think I tapped out of halfway through. I don't think I played Persona 6, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm good on Persona for a while. But this one feels different enough, and I was interested to come back to see how different it was going to be. And based on the time that I've put in so far, which is not a lot, just a couple hours, I do feel like it's different enough to warrant a look. You're basically playing this guy who is a specific race in this fantasy land that has multiple races. He is going to, I don't know, do some stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't have enough knowledge to talk about the actual story yet because this, like I said, it's a giant game. I played the demo, liked the demo, jumped into the main portion of the game, and I did put a couple hours into it, but I haven't gotten past the part that was covered by the demo. The reason for that being because I hear some of you saying, Brad, you could just carry your progress over from the demo. What happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. I played the demo on PS5, but I ended up getting it on Xbox. So the data may have carried over, but it doesn't carry over that far. So I had to start all the way from scratch, which means I had to go back and redo all of the progress that I had put into the demo. If I had stayed on PS5, I could have just transferred the save and I would have picked up where I left off. That would have been the smart move, but that's not what happened. So I had to start from scratch, rebuilding the progress. But I will say it's much quicker going through the second time because I can skip the cutscenes because I already know what they said. And I can skip all the tutorials because I already know what to do. So I have noticed I've been picking it up pretty quickly, and I am rapidly getting back to the part of the game where I left off. So I haven't really hit any new content yet, and for that reason, I don't have anything else to report. But basically, just a heads up, I am playing the full version of Metaphor ReFantazio. I do like it a lot. And I think the biggest takeaway for me so far is it has enough of the Persona formula to make it kind of like pleasantly familiar without being too familiar, but also it's quite different. And the team at Atlas over there, man, they just have this down to like a science. It is so fucking like slick. Everything about it is really fast, really streamlined. Like you're doing the turn-based battles, it can go really quickly. You get through the menus and choosing your options goes really fast. I mean, everything is just like boom, 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 flash, 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 menu, menu, boom, boom, boom. Like you're just going through it really quickly, rather than the traditional pokey pace of a standard JRPG where you have your guys lining up for battle and you select a menu, then you do it for your next character, then you do the other thing. I mean, they've done basically everything possible to make this game run at the highest speed possible so that you are spending most of your time pressing forward and making exciting decisions rather than just staring at menus. And it really is a masterclass in like just covering this whole thing with grease and just making it go. It is just like lightning fast, which is not something that you say about a lot of RPGs. So that's my big takeaway for the moment. Graphics on point. I like the character designs. I love how fast it is, how flashy all the menus are, how streamlined and pared back it all is. I think it's just pretty brilliant, and I am really looking forward to putting some more time into it and getting past the part that I did already cover in the demo. So I will report back when I get there, but just a quick heads up that I am playing in case anybody wants to talk about it, anybody has comments on it, anything like that, that's totally fine. Hit me up, and I'm sure that I will circle back when I have something more to say. So that was Metaphor ReFantazio, playing it currently on the Xbox. Okay, next up is Faith, the Unholy Trinity. This is I guess, I'm not really doing Halloween-themed games, but it's probably perfect timing, as Halloween is right around the corner. Playing this on the Switch currently, comes from New Blood Interactive as a publisher. This is a very unusual one, and I think it's probably fair to say it's a Marmite game. That probably means a lot to people who are from New Zealand and specifically Australia. It might not mean a lot to other people who don't know what Marmite is. But basically that means it's like a hot or cold kind of experience. Some people are going to think it's fucking delicious and love it. And some people will think this is fucking disgusting, get it away from me. This is absolutely the definition of a Marmite game. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure where I fall on the Marmite scale right now. But I do think it's fucking interesting as hell. Basically, I'm playing it on the Switch, and it is a compilation of 3 games in the same series. This is about a priest or a series of priests who are doing exorcisms with a number of people who have been possessed. So that's the very most bare bones, basic, vague explanation. But the thing to really know about Faith is that it is a retro throwback. And when I say retro throwback, I mean it's like the most amazing strong arm quarterback throw so far. It left the stadium throwback retro. And even further than that. As far as you think it goes, go further. Because this is made of pure pixels. And when you're walking around, it looks literally like an Atari 2600 game. Maybe like 0.5 degrees above what an Atari 2600 game would be. Your main character is just one color, and it's made up of like 14 pixels. You're in an area with like, in the starting area, you're in a forest, quote unquote forest, and the background is just like black. And there's like 3 trees, and the trees are made of like 20 pixels, and you're just like wandering around between the trees. The screen wraps around, so like when you walk off to the right side of the screen, you go to the next screen over, and if you go all the way to the right as far as it goes, you wrap back around to the left side of the screen. Kind of like the old Pac-Man action, if you're old enough to remember what that's all about. And you get to the house and the demon and doing stuff, and it's all just like super super mega scaled back, like lowest of lo-fi pixel approach. Now I will say, I do think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. It's a vibe, right? So like you got to know what you're getting into. And if you like this kind of like low res, like really, really demake kind of vibe, I think it's pretty awesome. They do a lot with a little. And the sound effects, which I did not listen to very much, are very much like squeaks and squawks and eeps and orps and static that you would have gotten on Atari back then. So I think they are very consistent with that. So you have to know what it's all about. Like you're walking around literally looking like an Atari game. When monsters come to attack you, you push one button, you hold up your crucifix, and then monsters run away. But it's all just like this really like Atari looking stuff. In the first section of the game, which is the part that I played the most, you are trying to find these notes. Now, this is one part that didn't work for me so much. Considering how lo-fi the game is, they do most of the narrative and storytelling via notes, which never works for me, regardless of what game it is. It doesn't matter if it is the most AAA, gold-polished, high-fidelity Resident Evil. I don't want to read a note, so I don't want to read a note in the lo-fi Atari game. I don't want to read notes fucking ever, dude. Like, for real. Although I will contradict myself before this show is over. But also, I think that it just doesn't really work for me in this context. I just don't really want to read the notes. So they do tell quite a bit of story, and there is story to be had, but you got to be ready to read notes. And I know that some people are not nearly as allergic to notes as I am, and I get that. That's a personal thing, so I own that. But I will say, at certain points in this game, the developers kind of cheat a little bit, and I say quote-unquote cheat, by doing these cutscenes that probably never would have worked on the Atari. And holy fuck, those are pants-wetting, bone-chilling. When those come up, sometimes you get jump-scared by them, or sometimes they just kind of zoom to them, and something about the way that those pixel moves is just fucking frightening. It is very effective, very creepy, very unsettling, and it's a big like contrast to these really simple shapes that you see before that when you're walking around. You're in a house, and the house is like 4 brown lines and then 17 brown pixels for a chair. And then all of a sudden this like hyper smooth, really pixel creepy demon cutscene comes up, and you're just like, oh God, what? Scary, fucking scary. So the cutscenes are, wow, just like, really impressive. So that's about what you're getting. It's a dark story. I think that there are, definite, like, exorcism, Catholicism, demonic things going on here. I did not finish the whole game because honestly, I don't know that I'm in the market for this kind of gameplay experience. The notes didn't work for me, and some of the gameplay definitely felt very Atari, where you're not really quite sure what you're supposed to do, so you kind of wander around until you figure it out. I think it's absolutely appropriate for what this game is. I mean, that's what it is if you remember those games back then. So that's fine. I'm not criticizing it for it. But for me personally, I don't know that I'm in the market for that kind of such a throwback experience. So I did not finish all 3. I finished the first one and then moved on to the second one. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. From what I hear, there are multiple endings for each chapter, like lots of secrets to find. You can dig around and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's very cool. And again, kind of a Marmite thing. If you're not up for the Atari experience, or you don't like the retro to go that retro, you might bounce off of this one. And I think I kind of eventually did, although I do respect what it's doing. But if you like retro, you like your D-Makes, you like Atari, you like really kind of fringe indie stuff, it's actually pretty cool. And I think they've done a lot with a little. And I really, really respect what they've done here. So I think it's a quality project. Maybe not for me personally, but I think a lot of people really will dig this. So just like Marmite, some people spit it out, some people smear it on bread and have a big sandwich. Kind of depends on which way you roll. But regardless of your opinion on Marmite, I think Faith, the Unholy Trinity, is super interesting and is definitely worth a look if you like any of that stuff. Retro, demonic, Atari, any of those things, definitely worth a look. Faith, the Unholy Trinity, there you go. All right, next up is a PC game called The Night is Grey. And I have to begin this segment with a huge apology to the developers, Whale Stork. They sent us this code like a million years ago. Like I literally think they sent it to us like December of last year or like January of 2024. And I realize it's October, which is why I'm apologizing. So Whale Stork, I am truly sorry. Just to give a little bit of quick context to everybody who might not know what the delay was, and I'm sure you don't know. So I don't usually play PC games. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows that. It takes a pretty special game or porno to get me to play on PC. And I don't usually like to do that because I like to be on my couch. I like to play on consoles. I like to, just be more comfortable, be around my family and hang out, and not to be in my basement on my computer. So I just don't like playing on PC, just in general. Never have been a PC player. Doubt that I ever will be in the future. That's just the way it is. But when we got this code, Carlos Rodella, the former co-host of the show, was still on. And so Carlos was going to review this because he plays PC like way more often than I do, even though he's pretty much a console gamer as well. But also he had a foot in both worlds, right? Foot in PC, foot in console. So we took it on, and Carlos was going to play it. And then, Carlos left the show. And so all of the stuff we had slated for Carlos, like all the PC oriented stuff, kind of just got dropped off the radar because he was going to handle all the PC and I was going to do the console stuff for a while, and it just didn't happen because he left. And so nothing happened. So Whale Storks, The Night is Gray, and a bunch of other stuff I'm not going to list out right now, all just kind of just got pushed to the side because I didn't want to cover PC and, life busy. I was kind of reorchestrating the podcast to be a solo jam, etc., 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 work and life and blah, 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 whatever. So I just say that as a way of, and not an excuse, right? Like I should have gotten to it quicker. I do feel like a responsibility as the person who runs this podcast and also as the editor of GameCritics.com. When we accept a code from someone, not when someone just sends it to us, that's different. But when someone offers a code and we say, yes, we want your code and we will cover this game for you, I take it very seriously. And I am very proud of the track record we have at Game Critics. Now, we may be late sometimes. We may take a minute to get to it. But if we take your code, there's like a 99.9% chance that we actually are going to cover it. And I only give you that 0.01% chance of not covering it because, I have a lot of people who write for me. I've got about 25, 30 people who write for me. And every once in a while, somebody's like, oh, I had a thing happen, I can't cover it, or something happened, or life, or whatever, or I just can't, or I lost a leg, or anything like that. And so once in a while, every once in a while, no one's perfect. So once in a while, somebody will not cover something. But in general, I think our track record of delivering on codes we've been given is excellent. I would even go so far as to say it is outstanding. I would be happy to compare our track record with anybody else on the net because I really do believe in being ethical and being honest and living up to our obligations. And when I accept a code, I do accept the obligation that I will cover it in some way or some form. So I do really want to apologize to Whale Stork. I feel bad that we, or specifically I, didn't get to it for such a long time. There were reasons, but still, it doesn't matter. So I am now rectifying that. And I did break down and go downstairs and play this game on my PC. And it was a little bit of a journey for me, but I got there. So just know all that. Now, with that preamble, what is The Night is Gray? It is a point-and-click adventure, and it's on PC, like I just said. And I will say, the first thing you're going to notice about this is the animation is just bananas. It is super good. I didn't know anything about this game, really, other than that it was kind of a point and click, and I wasn't sure what to expect. So I didn't finish it, just full disclosure, didn't finish it. But when you start the game, you get hit in the face with how good the animation is. It's super smooth and super natural, and I just was like, wow, that's really impressive. The backgrounds also really good looking. I don't know what black magic they're using, but Whale Stork really knows their way around graphics. I think this game looks phenomenal, especially in comparison to other point and click games. And it just was I just kept being very impressed with the graphics. It also starts off in a very strong, striking way. I'm not going to spoil anything, but basically the game starts with this guy, and he is in these woods, and you don't know what he's doing there. And he's like, okay, I got to get out of here. And he walks a little bit. You go a couple screens over, and then you see a house. You go to the house, and as soon as you go inside the house, it is just this really stark confrontation where there is, minor spoilers for literally the first 1 minute of gameplay, right? So this is the first thing you see when you start playing the game. But you start the game, and there's a little girl who is on a chair, and she is holding a shotgun, and she's so little she can't even hold the shotgun. She's balancing the shotgun on the back of the chair. And so you walk in, she's got you dead to rights, and then you have a little conversation with her, and it's just very shocking and striking and a very powerful way to start a game. And so you sweat a little bit, you kind of talk your way out of it, and then you get set off on this quest to, number one, turn on the lights at her house, get the generator running, and then kind of go through this and that. And ultimately what happens is you agree to team up with this girl and take her to where her mother is. You have to go through the woods, and it's not going to be a simple journey. You can't take the most direct route because there are a bunch of wolves there, and they are really goofy, amusing looking wolves. You can probably Google it and see the image of it. It's pretty funny. But you cannot go through the wolves. You have to go around, and so you go through all these other environments. And it's a very long journey. A lot of weird stuff happens along the way. And throughout the whole thing, there are just really oppressive, dark vibes. Like the main character, something is wrong with him. You don't know what he's running from, but he's got something going on. He is not happy. I almost want to say he might even be like borderline suicidal, perhaps. It's not a lot is revealed about him at the beginning, but the stuff that he says, he's very edgy and he's very like tense, and he's not nearly as gentle with the girl as I would want him to be. You do have dialogue, but as far as I've seen so far, you don't have a lot of choices. Like you can't really play the main character a different way. Like there's no like Paragon/Renegade option for him or anything like that. So you have to go through the dialogue as it's written. And as they've written him, he is a little bit too harsh with her. He's a little bit borderline mean sometimes, I think. And he seems to be under quite a bit of stress, but you don't really know what's going on. And as far as the girl goes, it's like, what is even going on here? I mean, she's got this gun. She's home alone in this dark cabin. Mother is nowhere to be found. And the girl just seems kind of like unbothered by the whole thing in a really weird way that I think most children would not be. I mean, I think most kids, when their parents disappear, they're concerned, they're scared, they want to cry, they need comfort and support. And for whatever reason, this girl is just kind of like, yeah, we're just doing stuff, and I'm going to play with my stuffed animal, and we're doing things over here, and it's fine. And it's just very disconcerting. The whole thing just has this very weird vibe of like, what is actually happening here? And whatever it is, it does not feel good. It does not feel like sunshine and warmth. It feels very creepy and very off-putting, very unsettling. So like I said, I didn't finish the game. Why did I not finish the game? Well, number one, I don't want to play on PC. That's just me. Everybody knows that. But number two, I'm very, very picky about my point and clicks. And I will say that as far as the puzzles go, the puzzles that I saw were all pretty straightforward and pretty rational. Like I didn't have a lot of trouble with some of them. But I just kind of wasn't in the mood to do like a little point and clicking where you collect one thing and then you use it on another and then you get through I mean, it's pretty straightforward point and click puzzle action. So I don't know that I was necessarily in the market for that right now. Just full disclosure, that's me. That's not really criticism of the game. But otherwise, I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting. If I was playing this on the Switch or if I was playing this on the Xbox or something, I mean, I might have stuck with it just because the comfort factor of me not being on a PC is pretty significant. But I do think it's very provocative. I think provocative is a pretty good word for this. I think it's intriguing in a dark way. I think the animation's great. And I think if you're in the mood for a point and click that seems a little bit off kilter, I've heard from other people that some dark shit goes down in this game and it's pretty, well, I will say no more. I'll just say that it's dark and that the story goes places. And if you're in the mood for that, if you're in the emotional place where you can handle that, I say check it out. If you want to see just a modern point and click with some really, really awesome graphics, check it out as well. I think it's very interesting. Not for me at this particular point in time, but that's not a criticism. That's just me kind of just being honest with myself and honest with you, the listeners. But definitely check it out. The Night is Gray. I bet some of y'all listening to this are really going to eat this up. I bet a lot of people out there would like this one a lot. So let me bring this to your attention. Once again, The Night is Gray, currently available on Steam. Next up is a 2D roguelike called Shogun Showdown. And boy, it is very difficult for me to not say Samurai Showdown every time I say Shogun Showdown, because just as being, the person of the age that I am and having grown up in the arcades and been playing fighting games, back in the day, whenever I hear the word showdown, I think of Samurai Showdown. But no. Totally different thing, not related at all. This is Shogun Showdown. And like I said, it's a 2D pixel-based roguelike. Currently playing it on the Switch, and I think it runs great on the Switch, so no performance problems there. This is a really, really interesting one, honestly. So it is very procedural and tactical. So what happens is you start the game with I guess they're probably a samurai. They're not a shogun. They're probably a samurai. And I think the first one you get is like the Wanderer, I believe. I think there's altogether like 5 or 6, but they're all locked except for that first one. And You go through a map, which is very similar to kind of the Slay the Spire map. And I know that a lot of roguelikes are using that template these days because it's a great template. But basically, you look at a map, you start on the left side of the map, you have branching pathways, and you can choose which way you want to go. There will be nodes that have fights on them, some that have shops, some that have random events, etc., etc. So you choose your path, travel along from left to right, and then you'll do a whole lot of fighting, and most of the time there will be fights along this path. So when you get to a fight, you have, I guess it's cards, I guess. Not really. It's not really a deck builder. It's kind of just like a move builder, collector. I don't know. It just feels like a regular roguelike to me. It doesn't necessarily feel like a deck builder. But you have these options. Like you'll get a couple of cards, I guess, that like one will be like a sword strike, and one will be like throw a shuriken, and one will be roll forward or dash or something like that. And so you can choose these items in any order at any time you wish, and each one has a cooldown. So whenever you use the sword, for example, and you want to slash somebody, you can use it, but then you will not be able to use it for like 2 or 3 or 4 turns, depending on whatever the specifics of the card are. So you have those things to start with, and then you will be on a 2D plane, and the playing field is only like, I don't even know how many, it's like 10 squares, maybe even less than that long, and enemies will appear on the left and the right. And so the hook to this game is that you have to not only be facing the right way, and it takes like a turn to face the other way if you're facing the wrong way to turn around, but you also have to like select the weapon as well, and selecting weapon takes a turn. So you're constantly evaluating where are the enemies, how many squares away are they, how long before they do their attack. They'll do like a little animation. You can tell when they're about to attack. And so do I need to move? Do I need to turn around? Do I need to get my sword ready? Do I need to get out a shuriken? And so it's not action based at all. Like it is turn by turn. Nothing happens until you select a turn, but like once you choose an action, everybody else takes their action at the same time. And so you're constantly like looking at spacing, looking at, distance, thinking about, okay, this guy's going to sword swipe for 1 damage, but I need to back up. But if I back up, that's going to use up my turn. I can't get my sword ready, so I guess I'll have to wait till the next turn. Or do I try to get my sword out, but then that person will be closer? Will I be able to get my sword out and hit him in time? If I do, will it do enough damage? Will it not? How much damage can I afford to take? Etc., etc. So you're doing like this like hyper intense tactics evaluation, like literally every turn. It's really dense. It is very dense. It is very crunchy, like maximum crunchiness. And I think it's actually really good. I'm really enjoying my time with it because I do like turn-based tactics. I do like strategy. I do like thinking ahead. I'm terrible at chess. Honestly, I think I should be better at chess. I'm really terrible at chess, but you would think so based on how much I like games like this. But maybe it just goes as far as these games. I stink at chess. But regardless, being able to think about these turns and think in advance, how many turns will I need to get away? How many turns will I need to get my sword ready? How many turns will it be until I can reuse the sword after it cools down? Like you're constantly doing these like little evaluations, and all the while enemies are appearing on the left, they're appearing on the right. Oh no, I got to turn around. That's going to eat up a turn. Damn it. And then you kind of like just kind of go through this whole thing. It's really, really cool. I like it a lot. It's very thick. It's very dense. It's slow, but in a good way. Very strategic, very crunchy. You're really, really micromanaging every motion of your character. And that changes by what weapons you get. You can get swords that have different attack ranges. You can get spears that go further. You can get more thrown weapons. Sometimes you'll get like a weapon that helps you dash across the screen. Movement comes into a lot. Like on my most recent run, one of the things I was doing was I had a back roll where I could roll backwards, and then whenever I rolled backwards, whatever I hit, they would take 1 damage. And so I all of a sudden started playing the game backwards, where I was like, okay, instead of moving 1 square, I can actually move across the whole screen, but it's got to be backwards. And the guy that I crash into has to only have 1 little pip of life left. So maybe I would like shoot an arrow or throw a shuriken, and then when he had 1 pip of life left, I would turn around, do a sword slash on the guy on the other side, and then I would do the back roll, and then roll all the way back to escape danger, and then hit that guy for his last pip of life and take him out. So you're constantly like strategizing and just thinking about what are your options and what can you do and what can you not do and how long is it going to take. It's really, really cool. I haven't finished any of the runs yet. I'm still kind of like learning the systems. And as far as progression goes, I know that's always really key for roguelikes like this. You earn currency on each run. And what I've seen so far is that you can unlock stores as you go. So like, for example, you get to a store in the first time in a run, he'll have like one item, but for 5 currency, he'll unlock the next item slot. And then the next time you get to him, he'll have that slot open. So like, as you keep unlocking stores, you'll get more and more options for successive runs after that. I believe there's also something else at the beginning. I believe there's like an option to start with something different. I believe it's like one more permanent unlockable, but all the unlockables you get are permanent. So you're not doing like huge unlocks, but like you're getting like new weapons, new options at the store. So you're gradually giving yourself more survivability, even if it's not, you know, like leveling up. Like your character never gets twice as much health or twice as much attack or anything. Like the character stays the same throughout, but you'll have access to better weapons, better motion, you know, more options as you're going through. So that's how they do the progression and increasing your survivability over time. So with persistence, you will eventually, you know, have better options and a better chance to survive. As far as I know, and Eugene Sachs over at GameCritics.com did a video review of this game, which I believe should be up by the time you're hearing this. He said that you unlock new characters by completing each run, and he did a couple. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know how long a run is, but hopefully it's on the shorter side. I really do like roguelikes where the run is like, you know, an hour or less. I do not like runs where they're like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. That's just too much. Too much. So we'll see. But so far, Shogun Showdown is a real surprise treat. I'm liking it a lot. I love the systems. It might not be for everybody because it's not action-based. It's not a hack and slash. It doesn't rely on reflexes or parrying or any of the bullshit that's going around right now. It's really all just about steps, planning, forethought, making the best with what you have. And those are all things that I really love about the roguelike genre. So this is really playing to all of my favorites, my favorite notes, my favorite types of roguelike. So this is really just, it's kind of made for me specifically. So I will probably circle back on this one. I'm really looking forward to completing a run, getting some new characters, unlocking some new stuff. And I just really like the mechanics. It's really well thought out, really well done. And I appreciate everything about it. So Shogun Showdown is great. If you love roguelikes or you like a little 2D action, little quick dip in, dip out, I think this stuff is the shit. Shogun Showdown is great. All right, last game of the show here is a very special one, which I really enjoyed a great deal. And I haven't done this for a while, but I'm going to go on the record and say this is the official So Videogames review. So this will be translated into a transcript, and this will also be ranked over at Metacritic. We are one of the few podcasts who does this, but I'm doing it right now. So Europa, this is the official review. So Europa, wow, what an interesting little gem, kind of come out of nowhere. And I really, really had a great time with this one. This is a third person, I don't want to call it an action game. It's not really an action game. It's kind of like an experience game, a vibes game. I believe when I was talking to people in the Discord about it, I called it a cozy chillcore game. And I think that's a pretty accurate description. So what is Europa? The story is that you are an android, I believe, and you are on the moon Europa, which is out in space. Humans specifically, have gone there to terraform it because they fucked up things on Earth, just like we're doing now in real time. And so they have gone to Europa to terraform it, to make it a new home away from home, where they were supposed to start fresh and create a new civilization, etc., etc. Just like all these jerk-offs are talking about going to Mars, which is obviously doomed for failure. But kind of that same premise here. So basically, you start the game at the grave of the person who created you. And this is not a spoiler. This is literally like the opening scene of the game. I'm not going to spoil anything. And honestly, there's not like a whole lot to spoil, frankly. But that's not a bad thing. But you start at the grave of the person who created you, and then you're faced with a task. You need to get to an island. There's an island floating in the sky. You can see it off in the horizon. It's not super far away, but it's, it's a little far. You are on the ground, on the surface of Europa, and it looks like Earth. It's green. It's got some water flowing. There's a little cozy little like cabin and a house off in the distance. But you look around and it looks very Earth-like and idyllic. But within just a few moments of looking around, you realize it's not quite the same. While at first glance it may look very Earth-like, you can see that the gravity is kind of messed up in some places. There are some things that are floating that shouldn't be floating, and things look a little bit off. Like, for example, this giant island that's floating in the sky. Also, you look at the animals and you'll see lizards and rabbits and deer, but then you're also like, wait, what is that? There's like these other kinds of animals walking around that are clearly not Earth animals, and it is soon revealed that they are the remnants of the terraforming robots people brought to Europa. So those are still around, and they have become kind of naturalized to the environment. I'm going to be careful and not say too much. Like I said, there isn't too much to spoil, but there are a couple things to spoil. So I'm going to be very judicious in what I say here. I'm trying not to spoil anything at all because I think this is a great experience. It's also a short experience. I think I finished the entire game in three and a half hours. So if I say even one thing, I mean, that really like cuts into what the game can deliver. And I don't want to do that. That would be a grave injustice. I will say also that 3.5 hours is the perfect length for this game. It does what it wants to do. It gets in, it gets out. There's no fat. It just makes its point and gives you a great experience, and then you're done. So I think 3.5 hours is the perfect length. But anyway, you quickly realize, okay, this is not quite Earth. It's like Earth plus, and things are slightly different. And so quickly you realize that your creator has left you some notes behind. This is probably one of the only like really like gamey aspects of this game. And ordinarily I would take issue with this, but in this particular case, I did not. In fact, I know earlier in the podcast, I said that I hate reading notes, and I do. I hate it with a passion. But this is one of the extremely rare instances where I actually did not mind reading the notes. And in fact, I looked forward to it because they were very well paced. They were set pretty far apart. You didn't read too many of them. Each one was pretty brief, and they told you exactly what they needed to tell you without getting too verbose, without getting lost in too many details. It just served to paint the picture in an appropriate way. And it also was thematically sensible because your creator, who was no longer around, needed to leave you information. And so he is writing these notes to you, knowing that you would find them. And he is telling you exactly what he wants you to know and what you should be thinking about as you journey your way to this island that's floating in the sky. Not going to reveal much about that. And the gamey part about that is these notes are glowing yellow, and they are like always in your direct path. And if someone wanted to leave you a note, you wouldn't just like leave it on the ground like that. So you just have to let go of that. And I let go of it pretty quickly. I try to not let it bother me because it was kind of obviously very video gamey. But you know what? The notes were great. They were often accompanied with drawings. So there's some visual there. It took you like 2 seconds to read the notes. And they really did serve to paint the picture of what was going on in Europa, which I really appreciated. This is, again, extremely rare that I like a note in a game. But these ones I did like a lot. And I thought they worked really, really well. So you have this task. You just have to get from where you are, which is on the ground in this little village, to that island floating in the sky. And you just have to just get there, just, point A to point B as the crow flies, basically, which is ironic because at first you're walking, but you will soon notice you have this object on your back, and it looks like an urn or a vase or something. It's kind of a weird little object. And to be frank, I kind of wished it had like a rocket on it or maybe wings or something. It doesn't look like a flight device at all, but that's what it is. Your android character, his name is Z, by the way. Z has this thing on his back, this device, this backpack, and it is a flight device. It helps him hover when he is falling from high heights, and when it is properly charged with a lot of the ambient energy laying around in Europa's environment, it will help him fly. And that's kind of the main jam of this game. There's no combat at all in this game. There are enemies, and I'm not going to... I can't say that. I'm not going to say that, but there's a thing... There's a reason. There's a thing that happens, but basically when you see enemies, you can turn them off. And that's not exactly correct, but I'm not going to say anything else. You can do something to them to make them stop attacking you. So you can turn them off and get them to stop aggro, or you can just avoid them. But if you do get attacked by an enemy, the worst thing that happens is you just get knocked down and you get a little dizzy for a few seconds and then you get back up. So there's no death, there's no damage, no health bar, nothing like that, no stamina, nothing like that. I will say, just as a brief criticism, there were a few times when there were a couple enemies on the screen and it was possible to, not fully stun locked because I could always get out of it, but there were a few times when I'm like, okay, I need you guys to stop hitting me really, like right now because I'm getting kind of frustrated. But it was only just like a brief moment here or there. And most of the time, once I knew what to do, I could easily avoid it. But every once in a while, I would slip up and the enemies would catch me. And then you would get kind of knocked around. But like, again, you didn't lose You didn't get sent back to the start. There was no damage. You just had to wait till you had a moment to collect your wits about you and then pick yourself back up. So there's no combat, no fall damage, nothing like that. The only thing you really ever have to worry about is how much energy is left in your backpack. And as you play the game, you will get these little upgrades to the capacity of your backpack. There's the notes that you find. There is the backpack upgrade things that you find. And then there are these emeralds that you find. Those are really the only three things to worry about in this game. It's just like a vibes game and a travel game and an experience game. So they smartly do not burden it with too much gamey shit. Like, you don't have to collect a bunch of stuff. There's no golden rings. There's no points breakdown. There's no time trial crap or anything like that. It's just like play the game and experience it. And in a way, it really reminds me a lot of Journey, honestly. And I say that in the best possible sense. I like Journey. Not my favorite game in the world, but I think it's really a landmark title that a lot of people really respect and enjoy. And I did enjoy it for sure. And this really reminds me kind of Journey, where you are going to a place. The whole game is getting from point A to point B. And it's just kind of like what you do along the way that kind of sets the tone for the whole experience. But you do get these upgrades, the backpack capacity. Those are really the only ones that I ever spent time going after, because it was just so great to fly. When your backpack is full, you hit a button and then you just like shoot up and get some vert and you just like kind of glide and then you just kind of peacefully fly around this environment. And it's really, really well done. I think the 2-button control system for the flying works great. I think just being in the air feels great. Jumping feels great. When you're in the air, you can pick up more energy. If you find some ambient energy laying around, basically just like kind of flying through a cloud of it, it recharges your backpack and you keep flying. And this kind of like leapfrogging between energy points was really fun. Often just like getting to a high point and jumping off and gliding down was really fun. I mean, it's the central mechanic of Europa, and I think it works really well. And it has to, because it is the central mechanic. And they did. It's great. I thought it was just so peaceful and fun. And I really valued getting another backpack upgrade, because I'm like, oh, great. That means I can fly longer, because flying is awesome. And I really want to do it some more. So that was really great. I like that a lot. The emeralds, I didn't care about. I think there's 40 in the game. I don't know if they do anything. I don't know if it's a different ending or what, but like, I was just really vibing on this game. I just really had a great time, and I didn't want to spend my time looking for upgrades or kind of poking around. I mean, they're just there to be found. If you really explore the environments thoroughly, you'll find them. I just didn't care about it. And I appreciate they threw those in for people who just need to get a little bit more gameplay out of their game. But for me, they were unnecessary. So anyway, that's kind of the thing, like, is you're just going from point A to point B. You go through these chapters. Each chapter is like a big chunk of the land. And it's not just travel, right? So you're avoiding some of the things that are aggro to you. But again, not a big threat. You're never going to die. And there's also like these little small scale puzzles along the way. And I say that they're puzzles, and they are puzzles, but they are not meant to like be, you know, real like stumpers. You know, they're not supposed to like break your brain. They never want you to go to YouTube to like look up a solution or anything like that. If you just get to a high point and look around, you'll usually find all the pieces you need. Like sometimes you're activating 3 switches, or sometimes you're collecting 3 items, or sometimes you just need to get to a certain place and push a button or something like that. They're all very straightforward, but there are enough of the different types of puzzle that they never got too boring. And they were all simple enough to where it felt like you were doing something, because I think this game would suffer if you were just flying from point A to point B. I don't think that would be enough. So they smartly realized you needed just a little bit more content to keep you busy, but they were really, really smart and did not put combat in. That would have been a mistake. So you do these puzzles, and sometimes you're in an area where they take away your flight power. Sometimes they do want you to fly. Sometimes you're just doing kind of like a look around your environment and spot something. Sometimes it's just pretty straightforward. I really appreciated the puzzles because they did make me feel like I was doing something worthwhile, but they were never too tough. They never got me stuck for any length of time. It was never anything that I felt like really was a barrier, or like the developers were really challenging me. And I didn't want to be challenged. That's not really what this game is about. It's about just getting from point A to point B and doing something along the way. So I thought that worked really well. I think overall, I really liked how you were just in this world learning the story, which I'm not going to spoil, which I really liked a lot. I think the message and story of this game is good, and I don't want to say any more, but I thought it was very worthwhile. And when you get to the final island, like when you get to where you're going, I thought that was really well done also. I don't know if I want to say that I shed a tear, but I definitely did feel some feels at the end. And I'm like, okay, that was like it meant something to me, right? Like it meant something that I got there and that I did this thing and that I went on this journey with this little android, and I just really enjoyed that time. It really kind of touched me in a way that very few games have touched me this year. So I like that quite a bit. In terms of criticisms, not many, but I will say that I played this on the Switch, and I think, like many people are feeling these days, I think the Switch is getting a little bit long in the tooth. Now, it ran fine. I didn't have any major problems with it at all, but as I was playing this game, I just kept thinking to myself, man, the only thing I really want from this game is that it looked a little bit better. Now, it looks fine. It played fine. I finished it. It was fine. It was all good. But it was just like a little bit washed out, a little bit fuzzy on some of the textures. And as I'm playing this, I'm like, oh, I bet this would be gorgeous if I played it on like the PS5 or, if I was a PC person, I would play this on PC because it's also on PC and Switch. And I'm like, I bet this looks hella a lot better on PC. And I went to YouTube and checked it out. And yep, it looks way better on PC. And just to be clear, this is not a AAA powerhouse or anything. I mean, it's like, definitely like a smaller game, lower budget, smaller team, I'm sure. But it just looked crisper and cleaner. And I just think that in an experience game like this, part of the experience is the visuals. So it ran fine on Switch. I'm glad I played it. If that's the only way you can play it, absolutely play it. Like, don't miss it if you're looking for a cozy chillcore game. But I just wanted it to be sharper. And I really think that's the issue with the Switch, not really with the game itself, because it did look much better on PC. But overall, I really, really liked it a lot. I thought it was a heartfelt journey. I thought it had something to say. I thought it said it well. I thought the mechanics were extremely well done. I really appreciate, especially here in the year of our Lord 2024, that we can have several games. And in fact, I've had several experiences this year where there is no combat, where there is no fail state, where there's no damage, no guns. I think that's fine. I mean, I like guns just fine. I like shooting things just fine. And we've done that a billion times. But I think it's okay to do something else. And it was extremely appropriate for this particular game because of the story, because of the themes, that there was no violence. It was just about this android and about getting where he needed to go and what was waiting for him there. I thought it was just fantastic. I enjoyed this game from start to finish. I played it, I think, in maybe 2 sessions, and I thought that was a great bite-sized little sit-down. I wouldn't have wanted it to be longer, and I think it's exactly the right length it needs to be. And overall, I just was really, really, really pleased with this game. I think it's a great experience. And anybody who likes Journey, or anybody who wants a non-violent experience, or anybody who cares about the environment or about just, having a really nicely told, heartfelt narrative in games should check this out. And it's such a short play. It's an easy recommend. It's not a big time commitment. I think most people could probably finish it in a day if they wished. And it's not too often that I get delicious little morsels like that are so easy to recommend. So overall, I love Europa. It's definitely one of my favorites this year. I thought it was a nice surprise out of nowhere, and I would absolutely recommend it. And my official So Videogames review score for this game is 8 out of 10. Absolutely. All right, folks, that is going to do it for the game portion of the show. It's officially done, but like most humans, I do spend a few minutes a week in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right. It is now time for the TV and movie roundup. Got a lot going on this week. Like many other people around the world, I am deep, deep, deep into the Great British Bake Off. We just talked about cozy chillcore, and this is like cozy chillcore TV for sure, the definition of it. Love watching Paul and Prue and Allison and Noel, the hosts of the show, and all the people that are baking every week. It is just like, I could watch this literally every day and I would never get tired of it. Just the teamwork, the reassurance, the laughs, the baking, the successes, the failures. I love the British Bake Off. I unabashedly love it, and I would watch it like for infinity. I think my wife and I have seen every episode of every series so far of the mainline series. I know they have some offshoot series we haven't seen, and I think some of them have not been made available outside of the UK. But regardless, love the British Bake Off. It is great, and I'm just very, very, very taken with it. It is exactly the warm, cozy hug that I think we need right now in a world so full of chaos and despair. Seeing the Bake Off is really a light in the darkness for sure. Speaking of light in the darkness, what is the opposite of that? I think the opposite of that is The Walking Dead, the TV show. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but my son and I are going through The Walking Dead. I've seen half of it. I watched the original series until the part where a particular character dies a particularly gory death. I know the series is like old, and I don't want to spoil it for people, but also I'm not sure exactly how much of a spoiler is a spoiler. So I will be vague, but I will say there was a pretty famous death on that show, one of the most beloved characters, and it was gut-wrenching to me. Like, it went too far for a show that I feel like routinely went pretty far. And for someone as jaded as me, who is not really bothered by violence, it did bother me. And I'm like, oh, fuck, that was too much. So we stopped at that point. And I will say also, to be fair, I stopped reading the comic book at that exact same point. I felt like the comic book went way too far. And I felt like the show's adaptation of that comic book went way too far. So that was traumatizing, honestly. But I am really interested to see where it goes. My son wants to watch it, and he is old enough to watch it now. So we're in the middle of season 3, I think, where they're at the prison. And so we're kind of going through that. And it's been a real trip to kind of come back to it, see what has aged well, what has not. And it's funny how in a world that is now, full of COVID and about, democracy being in danger and about, runaway capitalism and things, it is a marvel how many things can be distilled in this show to, we kill our problems and move on. I mean, I know that's not the answer to everything, but like, we live in a world that is complicated by so many things that don't need to be complicated. And when you see a show like The Walking Dead, where it's like, we just get right to the fucking chase of it, it is kind of refreshing to see something like that. So really enjoying that. Again, great show. Definitely brutal. We haven't gotten to the most brutal part yet. I got to brace myself because I do want to get further than the part where we quit last time. And that was just, it was so hard. It was so hard, dude. Oh man. I know it's coming and I'm still cringing, knowing that it's coming, but we'll get past it. We'll get past it, hopefully. Also, in the very tail end of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, we are in the final season, season 7, and I think we're probably like 8 or 10 episodes in. So we're almost to the finish line with Deep Space Nine. And I got to say, it's been great. I heard a lot of people say it was good. I heard a lot of people say it was as good as Next Generation, if not better. And you know what? That's actually correct. I think it's at least as good as Next Generation. And honestly, in some ways, I do think it's better. I think they spend more time with the characters. We have more opportunity to see them grow and change. It's not perfect. There's some mistakes. There are some weird episodes here and there. I mean, every show goes through its little rough patches here and there. But honestly, I think it's a pretty superior show, and I'm really glad that we watched it. And I'm very excited to see what happens. We just got through a pretty brutal episode, actually, where one of the main characters got really seriously injured. And it's the kind of injury that's going to last for the next few episodes. It's not going to just get healed and go away. We also just lost a main character recently, so that was pretty tough. But it's really, really good. If you like Star Trek and haven't seen Deep Space Nine, I would absolutely give it my highest recommendation. I don't know that it's my favorite series, but it could be my favorite series. And I guess a lot will depend on how it wraps up. Because I do love me some Next Generation, but shit, man, this is pretty fucking good stuff. Moving on to movies. Let's see what else. Wait. One more TV show. Wife and I just watched the opening episode of Teacup. This is a brand new horror weekly TV show. It's on Peacock, I believe. And it's got the guy who is behind all of those really scary movies, James Wan, who I think I am a fan of. I think when he is not going for pure scares, I think I like him, but he does do some scary stuff. This TV show, though, interesting, is based on a horror book from, it's either the 70s or 80s, maybe the 80s, from author Robert McCammon, and the book is called Stinger. I've actually read this book before. I was so surprised when we watched the opening credits. I had no idea there was a connection, and it's like, oh, based on the book Stinger, and I'm like, oh shit, I read that one. Oh, okay, cool. Like I'm so excited. Very few movies, as far as I know, have been made off of Robert McCammon's work, but back in the day, he was really popular, very popular as a horror author. I mean, he wasn't like Stephen King well known, but like he was up there, and if you were in the horror genre, like you knew who he was for sure. Like he sold some fucking books. So I'm very curious to see what they do with this. First episode starts a little slow. They're kind of like setting things up, and some of the characters I already kind of don't like, so we'll see how it goes. But we'll give it a chance. In terms of movies, we went back in time to the 80s and we watched Dreamscape. This is a classic sci-fi / horror from the 80s. Stars Dennis Quaid. It also has a bunch of other people in it, like Kate Capshaw and a bunch of other like big stars from the 80s. Like if you see this film, George Wendt from Cheers is in it. It was actually kind of a surprise, and we kind of played like that little, spot the star game where a lot of these people had either just become big or were about to become big, and they were in this movie. But it was really cool because it was about a scientific program who took psychics and put them into the dreams of people who were suffering from really bad nightmares. So like if you had a really bad nightmare, is waking up every night, it was just destroying your mental health, they would hook you up with one of these psychics and he would jump inside of your dream and help you solve whatever problem it was. So for like one of the examples, just a quick example, not to spoil anything, but one of the examples is like this guy who's having marital problems and he doesn't know what's going on. So they jump in his dream and he's having dreams that his wife is being unfaithful to him, and she's not, but it's in his dream. And so it's causing him to have like confidence problems and it's causing friction in their marriage. And so the guy jumps in and like, you know, helps him figure out what's happening in his dream. That's like one example real quickly. But it's really good. It's really good. It's a cool idea. I think it's executed well. Dennis Quaid in the lead. I mean, you know, he was like a huge star, still is, I guess. And, you know, any movie he's in, I think just automatically gets like a +1 appeal factor. So it was a good film and I think well done. We really had a great time with that one. That's a fun one. If you don't mind a little claymation stop motion for the special effects back in the 80s, I think it's definitely an easy recommend. And the final movie we watched was a little more recent, Crimson Peak, from Guillermo del Toro, who is one of my favorite directors. Absolutely. This is a really interesting one because I heard a lot of people say they didn't care for this one, but my wife and I have seen basically all of his movies except for this one. This was the final one, and so we watched it. And man, I thought it was great. I thought it was really, really good. The story is basically okay. Let me back up a little bit. Number one, the thing to know about this movie is it is opulent as fuck. I don't know that I've ever seen a movie that had sets as lavish and as well done and as detailed as this fucking movie. They built a giant mansion for this movie. My wife looked it up on IMDb. And like they built this mansion from the ground up for this movie. And it is the most ornate motherfucking huge mansion with all these little details and scary bits and dripping walls and everything about it. It looks like this like rotten, regal kind of like glory days gone by, kind of haunted but not really kind of thing. It is just like amazing. All the costumes fucking amazing, everything about it amazing, lighting amazing. Like Del Toro is like firing on all cylinders visually. Like it is a visual fucking tour de force, like for sure. I don't often watch a movie just for like the visuals, but like holy shit, like every fucking scene was like wow, this is wow, just wow, I can't believe it. So that. Also in the beginning of this movie, Del Toro really tips his hand and kind of like spells it out for the audience, because one of the characters is writing a book and someone asks her what the book is about, and she says it's a love story. It's just a story. And they're like, but it's a ghost story. And she's like, no, it's a story with a ghost in it. That's him telling the audience, yo, listen up. This is not a ghost movie. It is a movie with a ghost in it. And that's exactly what he delivers. It is not really about ghosts. It's about love. It's about, I don't know, like the Victorian era and stuff like that. Like these, you know, it is a very like Bridgerton plus ghost sort of thing. And in this world, it's interesting because they just kind of acknowledge that ghosts exist. I mean, not everybody does, but the main character is like, yeah, ghosts are real. And she meets another guy who's like, oh yeah, ghosts are real for sure. But like, they just kind of like live their life. It doesn't become the central focus of their existence. It's just like, yeah, I have a job and I do stuff and I'm rich and I have this big house, and also ghosts are real. And also I like your dress and we're going to go out for dinner. And it just kind of gets worked into the fabric of the film. And it's a really interesting, compelling story. Some of the beats I think are clear to see from a ways off. I mean, I will not say that I was kept in suspense by what I thought was going to happen, because I had it figured out pretty easy from the start. But honestly, it was just about the performances. The performances were all great. It was like this all-star cast. Every fucking shot was just like completely opulent, like completely just like so dripping with detail and color and richness. And I thought the story was very cool. It was very reminiscent of his earlier works. If you like Guillermo del Toro's work, you're gonna like this one. I guarantee you're gonna like it. It's very much in the pocket with what he's done before, with stuff like The Devil's Backbone or Pan's Labyrinth or anything like that. So I thought it was marvelous. I really enjoyed it on multiple levels. The wife really liked it too, and it was just great stuff. So all right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music, I would love for you to leave reviews, share the show on social media, and most important of all, please recommend So Video Games to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth, Wilbur. Also, if you'd like to support the show and help with the cost of running this podcast, and the cost did just go up, just got my notice from SoundCloud, they are raising the cost. You can help me out with that over at patreon.com/the So Video Games Podcast. And if you want to join the Discord, that is now free of charge. As always, in addition, I would love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up in the So Video Games Discord, or you can email me directly at sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com, or You can reach me on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. It's my name, BradGallaway. Always no O's. And that's going to do it for episode 411. Thank you again for joining me here in the So Video Games podcast, and we'll see you next week.